Alright, we're going to replace these U-joints here. We're going to pound off this stub yoke. I already got that side off. We're going to do that. We're going to heat the outside so it expands, and then we're going to hit this with an air hammer. And it should slide right off the shaft. I already pounded out the lock pin there. You can see, there you go, focus. So here we go. Before it cools down, we gotta hit it. Alright, now for those of you that haven't seen a U-joint before, what we're going to do to replace this is see this little ridge right there. That's a C-clip. Now we got to take all 4 of those off so we can get the caps out, because the caps are going to come out from the outside like this, all 4 of them. We're going to take this end off first so we don't have to worry about it flopping around, and then we'll work on the longer part of the shaft. We're going to use a chisel like this to get the clips out. There, you can kind of see that one. So you're going to catch these edges on these snap rings. Now this is going to be a little tricky because these are so wore out that they're spinning. Normally I'd hit these with a hammer, but I might be able to get these out without even smacking them. We'll try this one then. Come back to that one later. These will go flying, so watch your eyes. There. So that's all that's holding that U-joint in. There's 4 on each, well there's 1 on each cap, so 4 total. We basically just gotta take all 4 of those out. If you've never done a U-joint before, they're all the same. Some of them have snap rings on the outside, but this is an internal snap ring design. You're not supposed to pry with chisels, but that's all I got in my hand. There we go, look, there's number 2. You just keep working around until you get them all. See, that one went flying. We got 1 more to go. Alright. I fought that one off camera for a little bit. So now, what we're going to do, well, this usually won't happen. You usually won't just get these to fall right out. But, in this case, we are. So, what we're going to do is when you strike these, you never strike over here. You never strike the shaft. None of that. You want to hit it right here. And what we're going to do is we're going to hit this down, and it's going to want to push that cap up because this piece wants to go down. They will not be that easy 99% of the time. This one's been so wore out it actually wallowed out the yokes a little bit. Fortunately the new caps are a little bit bigger so they fit nice and tight. Once you get both caps off, this just rocks off. You have to kind of move it to one side of the U-joint. If this were a drive shaft on a car, you'd want to mark the relationship where this was, because sometimes they're balanced a certain way, and if you flip them like this, you might get a drive shaft vibration. On a hay rake, not important. What you're going to do is you're going to put it in the vise, just like that. You'll notice I got the U-joint cross resting on the vise on both sides. So when we strike it, let me move it up a little bit so you can see better. When we strike it here, it's going to push this whole shaft down. It's going to push that cap up. Just like that. Flip it over. Do the same thing. There you go. And this should just rock out just like the other one. See? There's your U-joint without any caps on it. And we want to note where the grease fitting was. We want to make sure we can access it once we put it on the machine. Now, under normal circumstances, if you are doing these U-joints and they were very rusted in there, you would clean the inside surface here with a piece of emery cloth. And if you're worried that if there's a bunch of rust buildup here on this surface, you would also sand that down until you have fresh metal. If you don't do that, sometimes you will not be able to get the U-joint to compress enough, and you will not be able to get your C-clips back in without your U-joint binding. And especially on cars, that can definitely cause a drive shaft vibration. I'm not going to clean this one up because these were so loose in here. I'm going to leave the rust in there so I have all the metal I can get. And I didn't have a problem on the other side not cleaning this up because there's not a whole lot of rust buildup here. So I'm just going to go ahead and reinstall the new U-joint. Alright, we're going to start by, we're going to pull every single cap off of our new U-joint. Now, our grease fitting we want on this side. This one's not too big a deal, we can always flip it around. It spins right around in here, but what you're going to do is you're going to get this poking out like this, and you're going to put your cap on. That way you know all your needle bearings are on there correctly and they didn't. Yeah, there you go. A lot of grease in that one. You don't want your bearings to get cocked in the cap. You want them all to be straight up and down. So you put it on, and this is important too. When I'm pounding this in, I am lifting up on the U-joint cross to keep this seated on the U-joint cross. That way your cap and your bearings and all the bearings inside the cap will not go sideways and fall flat across on the inside of the cap, if that makes any sense. I'm just going to pound this until it's flush to the point that you get your snap ring on. And now I'm hitting the cap. I'm not hitting the yoke right now. There, so you should just want. Then you're going to take the new C-clips that came with your U-joint. They always should. So if you didn't get them, you should have 4 of them. Make sure you call your parts store and complain. Be a Karen. This is how you put these on. Once you get that little groove far enough into the yoke, you're going to put your snap ring on there like this, and you're going to do one sharp whack with your hammer with the pointed edge so you don't hit your fat meat fingers. See, that didn't go on all the way. There you go, you heard it snap. Now you can see the snap ring is in the groove. Now we're going to do the same thing. We're going to put the other cap on. Okay, we're going to pull this out just a little bit. You don't want to lose the bearings on the other side. I'm going to get the cap started. Just going to lightly tap it, get it going. Once you get it sunk in enough, you don't have to worry about the bearings falling over sideways anymore. Okay, there you go. Pop on the other snap ring. And that's done. Now, we just got to put the other end of the yoke on. We'll be good to go. Weasel it on there like that. Grab your new cap. You're going to do the same thing. So basically all I'm showing you guys here is when you pound the cap in, you got to make it flush enough so that you can get the snap ring on. And you want to make sure you're hitting the U-joint cap and not the yoke itself to drive the cap below flush on the yoke, and then you'll be able to get your snap ring in once it's in far enough. There you go. All the C-clips are in. Now if your U-joint is kind of tight, one thing you can do bring it back over to the open jaws of the vise, and you're going to set it in there so that it grabs the outside ears. Okay? And what you're going to do is you're going to settle these two caps, you're going to hit it here, you're going to flip it over, you're going to hit it here, and then you're going to do it like this on the other side. And when you do that, it'll push the caps to their most outward positions against the snap ring, and it won't bind up anymore. If it's still binding up after you do that a couple times, that's where I'm talking about you have to clean the insides of these yokes, because if there's too much rust buildup, it'll pinch the caps in too tight, and you'll have a problem with a vibration if it's on a car or something. On a hay rake, it's not going to make a lick of difference. Pop the grease fitting in, and I'm actually going to grease this one before I put it on, because the grease fittings will be even easier to get to now than later. Now we're just going to take some emery cloth and clean this out, because if you remember we had to heat them both up and air hammer them off. And I do not want to be putting them back on when they're that rusty. I already cleaned up the shaft on the hay rake, so we don't have to do that. Now what I was talking about on the other side, all those caps went in so loose on that U-joint. This one went in fine. It went in nice and tight. On that side, I am probably going to run 4 little tack welds on the cap, on the yoke, just to hold it in there and keep it from spinning and hurting this yoke anymore. I don't know when this rake was built. It's probably from the 70s, but it's old, and these are getting harder to find. And even then, a whole shaft, you're talking 140, 200 bucks, and a couple tacks at the welder will be just fine. Perhaps I should have cleaned that up a touch better. You don't want it too loose. Now imagine that, it just slid right on there. Alright, that's going to conclude the U-joint replacement on the hay rake. I hope you learned something, and thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.